So, if you're wondering, man, we're seeing a lot of Dave today. Everybody else is gone. Andrew, my executive pastor, he left me. How dare he? Actually, holidays, what are those? And then Tina, our executive assistant, she's gone. Even the youth director. So here I am. You're stuck with me today. Talking about our youth director, next week I get an opportunity to speak at our denominational camp, Camp Kawassan, and they're doing sort of like a family celebration thing. So I'm not going to be here. It's the only Sunday I'm going to miss this next Sunday, so that's the Sunday you can invite your friends. It'll be safe. Cara, our youth director, she'll be speaking. So if you want some young people to hear somebody with passion for young people, come on out next Sunday. Just as an aside, I'm not sure if you know, but I have a lot of fun. And this week, I do a lot of my message preparation at Starbucks. This is weird. I don't even like coffee. I don't even drink coffee. But I like working out in the community because people see the Bible and they come and talk about it. Or I get to pray with people. They're at the Starbucks counter. They said, "You're some kind of priest, aren't you?" I go, "Yeah, kind of." And it's really fun. And there's this one guy that comes by all the time now. I saw him with a Bible. So I said, "Hey, you reading that?" And yeah, he's on the way to God. But I know for 15 minutes, every time I'm there at Starbucks, he's going to come by with questions. It's fascinating because he just basically blew his life up. And somebody told him he should turn to God. So he's reading the Gospels and he's read through the book of Acts. So he has no idea about God. So the questions he brings are utterly amazing. He said, "So, Dave, did I really screw my life up? Or was that temptation too? Is it not really my fault?" I said, "Wow, that's a great question." I said, "It's both. You probably were tempted, and it is your fault that you screwed up your life." We speak honestly here at Church on the Rock. He goes, "Whoa. How do I know which is which?" I said, "Well, don't worry about working that part out. Let's work about getting it right." I said, "So this last week, I've talked to him about 5 or 6 times. It's awesome." And he says, "Hey, Dave, can I talk?" I said, "Yeah, sure, sit down." And he says, "I don't get this love thing. If somebody nailed me to the cross, I wouldn't love him. Why does God die? And he wants to love me? What's that about? If somebody came and hit me in the face, I wouldn't love him." I thought, that's a good question. Isn't that a great question? And so I said, "Have you ever been around anybody that's adopted a child?" And I said, "Yeah, I got some friends that did that." I said, "Why the heck did they do that? Children cost money. They're messy. They burp and fart. They do all kinds of things, right, that you just don't want. And they take time. Why did they do that?" He said, "Oh, I have no idea." Do you see any kind of any kernel of love? Yeah, I do. Take that kernel and expand it to an ocean, and that's God's love for you. He goes, "Whoa." And he gets up and leaves. Anyway, I love it here at Church on the Rock. We're just not about ourselves. We want to reach those who are on the way to God. Continue to pray and ask that God would give you opportunities. Well, we are going through the life of Moses here throughout the summer. And I know you're sort of getting little shots at whether you're here or gone through the summer. Where we are right now is going to be actually talking about some of Moses' leadership. There are big L leaders, those who seem to be able to lead corporations, that seem to be able to lead organizations. And there's little L leaders. Little L leaders, that's all of us. We all sometimes must lead our families. We must lead our children. We maybe have a class or a friend. In fact, if you have none of those, you just need to lead your own life. And this week, we're going to get a real appreciation for a leader, Moses. We're going to actually look at 2 leaders, Aaron and Moses. We're going to talk about how they handled a difficult situation, a crisis where they both came to a crisis point, and how will leadership happen. And whatever you are, wherever you are, and whatever you have to lead, I hope you can say, am I more like Aaron, or I'm more like Moses? And where am I on that scale? And how can I become a little bit more like Moses and what God did through him? We're having to fast forward through a lot of Moses' life mainly because there's like 4 books of the Bible sort of written. Oh, God bless you. Yeah, the servant of Jesus Christ right there. All right. Well, I can't even drink water. Okay. So we've had the Red Sea crossing. They've walked through the middle of probably the most amazing miracle that God had ever done to date. They sang praises. They danced with tambourines. They came to find clean water. They had manna from heaven. They fought a battle against the Amalekites, and we're going to come back to that. But God came down on the mountain. Now, if you've ever read it, it would just be, if you can be transported back to your top 3 Bible stories, this would be one. To be able to see the presence of God shake a whole mountain. And there's thunder and lightning, and a cloud came down. And guess, I never noticed this before, but God spoke from the mountain, and he actually spoke the 10 Commandments out. Did you know? I always thought they're on these like stone tablet things, right? They are, but he first of all spoke them out. And it's like, I think that just shows you a little heart of God, just letting you know, God likes his people to hear him. And that's one of the reasons why here at Church on the Rock, we talk about listening to God, because I believe he still likes to speak. So anyway, that just got too freaky for the people. So they said, no, don't talk to us anymore. We're too frightened, God. And so they asked Moses to sort of, could you just go and talk? And so Moses comes back and forth up and down the mountain, delivering messages. And one part is in Exodus 20, verses 22 to 23. And it says this, the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites this, you've seen for yourself that I have spoken to you from heaven. Isn't that fascinating? They heard God's voice spoken from heaven. Do not make any gods alongside me. He's not even saying, don't replace me. I'm God, but don't make any gods that just are also. I've got God, but I also have this. A lot of religions do that. I like Jesus, but I like all these other gods too. He says, do not do that. Put other gods alongside of me. Do not make for yourself gods of silver or gold or gods of gold. And then he makes a covenant with his people. Covenant is like a holy promise. And I don't know, you know how you read through the Bible several times and you get different ideas? I'd never seen this before. You know how he made the covenant with the people of Israel? God had a meal with them. Isn't that wild? God comes down in some recognizable form, and it says he was standing on something that looks like sapphire that was moving. It's almost like the movie, like he's standing on the sky. And 70 elders were brought partway up this mountain, and Moses and Aaron's sons all came down, and they had a meal to seal the covenant. I'm okay, if you're not into the Bible, you zone out for a moment. Bible people, where else has God come down and had a meal to ratify a covenant with his people? Anybody remember that? Like maybe, this is the right Sunday school answer now. Okay, ready? Get ready. Maybe it's Jesus. He goes and breaks the bread, and this is the blood of my new covenant. And God comes down and has a meal with his people, except Jesus isn't standing on a sapphire sea. But it's just, I love how the Bible all ties together. So the 70 elders and Moses and Aaron eat with God. And then Moses goes back up the mountain. And he waits 40 days. This would be like Dave's going on vacation. That was like the second week in June. He's not back yet. Is Dave okay? Did the plane crash? Did Dave find another job? What happened to Dave, right? And everybody's going, they're coming every Sunday. We got Aaron again. Dave's not here. Wow. All right. And so we pick up the story from here. All right, we're going to jump into the Word. If you have the Word that's alive, we're going to read through Exodus chapter 32. By the way, if you don't read the Bible, this is good stuff. It's just so rich. I could go on for hours on this stuff. You should read it yourself. This is just so amazing. All right, so 40 days, Moses is gone. Let's see what the people decide to do. Exodus 32, verse 1. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron, a leadership moment, and said, "Come, Make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. Come on! Like, what? Okay, sorry, I'm a little indignant at these people. Like, okay, can you help me with my indignation? Like, if I were there, this is what I'd say. People, what were you thinking? All right? Can you help me with the indignation? Okay, can we all, I'll try this together. I want to hear your voices. All right? People! Yes, he just said don't make idols. You saw him open up the Red Sea. Like, manna's coming down from heaven. You heard that you're not supposed to do this. What were you thinking? Wow. Were they distracted by boredom? Were they restless? Were they fearful? God takes his time. Have you ever noticed this? This is an aside. How often God's timing is a test. God could have done this in a day, couldn't he have? He's lounging with Moses up. I don't know what they're doing. But whatever, it's taken 40 days. Do you ever notice that sometimes, how often God's timing is not our timing? Oh, God, give us that building now. I'm okay. No, sorry, that didn't come out. How often is God's timing a test? They were just 40 days from the parting of the Red Sea. They heard God's voice. They had a meal with him. They didn't screw up in any light way. They sort of broke the first commandment. Out of all commandments, let's just jump to number 1. So Aaron, the leader, who sat with God and had miracles performed by his own hand, and this was his time to lead. This was his time to step up. Now he could say, do not do these things. Couldn't you see it? Like, that would be how a leader would say that, right? Be patient. Remember what God has done. Remember the first commandment. I will not let you offend the Lord. These are all things that Aaron could have done, right? All right. Let's see how Aaron does. Exodus 32, verses 2 to 6. And Aaron answered them, take off your gold earrings that of your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing, and bring them to me. So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron, and he took what he handed him and made him into an idol, cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. That's going to be important later. And then they said, these are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. Aside, do you ever notice the gods that we worship sometimes come from our own stuff? The stuff that we accumulate? That's too convicting, so I'm going to move on. Okay. And when Aaron saw this, that all the people were now calling this thing a god, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, tomorrow this will be a festival to the Lord. And he used the word Yahweh. So he's trying to bring God into it. He's trying to mix a little bit of calf worship with maybe in his mind a lot of Yahweh worship. I don't know. Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord, that is Yahweh. So the next day the people rose early. Woo! Finally, let's get the party on. And they sacrificed burnt offerings and presented fellowship offerings afterwards. They sat down to eat, drink, and they got up to indulge in revelry. Aaron's time to lead. Can I just say, if I was there, I think I would say, Aaron, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Did you think that God was busy up with Moses and couldn't see what was going on? Did you not hear the first commandment? Did you were you talking to your wife when the first commandment was going on? Oh, I missed that one. What were you thinking? Okay, so Aaron, can we all help? Okay, ready? Here we go. Aaron, what? See, in Egypt, there was this god called Ammon. He wasn't a calf god. He was a bull god. He was a god of power and determination. And so in a way, the people were so used to worshiping the gods of Egypt, they sort of got the bull god, but he's not going to be the bull. We're going to compromise. He's going to be a calf. The God will like calves. He doesn't like bulls. What were you thinking? They were so familiar with physical objects to worship. The worship of Yahweh that didn't have a physical object they were just becoming reacquainted with that. It's not so bad, is it? Sort of God and other stuff too. Compromise. We're going to find out in this story that compromise with God's absolutes is never good. It's like, hey, can I just add a bit of poison to your food? Not much. Just a bit. I was talking to my Starbucks friend again. He came up with another question. He said, Dave, I heard about, like, they were killing Christians, like throwing them to lions. Like, what's that about? Were the Christians rebellious people? Were they like rebelling against the emperor? I said, no. They said they didn't start an army. No. Why were they killing them then? He said, because I said they would not bow and worship to the emperor. And he sits back and goes, that's it? He said, I would bow. He said, but I wouldn't mean it in my heart. I would still kind of bow, but not really mean it. I said, that's really cool because there's a whole group in the Bible called the Nicolaitans who also believed that. And they talked about, listen, this is not worth giving up your life. Just offer a little bit to the emperor and then still love Jesus. Can't we just all get along? Can't we just add a little bit of other stuff? And Jesus is not too kind to the Nicolaitans either. He told them that he hated that. This is Jesus, kind and gentle Jesus. And not only that, to another church that was involved in that, he said, Jesus said, I will work against your church if you do that. This whole idea of compromise with God's absolutes, never good. There's some things that are gray issues that God allows us to make up our own minds in. I know there are, but there are some things that we can't get away from the Word of God. There are right and wrong, and it's something that we just can't say, well, maybe I'll try a little God. It's interesting, they could live without the vital presence of God. They could settle for a calf. This is like a defining moment for Israel. Will Aaron lead? And he stands up, and he stands as strong as Jell-O. He says, whatever you want. I'm not going to rock the boat. Can I just say, he was not acting out of love. We're going to find out what happened to the people. This was not a loving act. He was acting out of the path of least resistance, and it led to unspeakable disaster. Let's contrast and find out about leader Moses. Let's find out what Moses did. Exodus chapter 32, verse 7 to 11. Then the Lord said to Moses, go down, because your people, whom you brought up out of Egypt, have become corrupt. Okay, just as an aside, Leaders, I'm going to talk to Big L leaders now. If you have a responsibility for your family, you have a responsibility for an organization, elders, pastors, okay, if God says, listen, I'm putting you in charge, you have authority, guess what? Now they are your people, and I'm going to ask you about what they're doing. Someday, I am going to stand in front of God, and he's going to say, so what about these people? I'm going to go, no, they're your people. He's going to go, no, Dave, I was giving you an opportunity to lead those, so they became your people too. The Lord said to Moses, go down because your people whom you brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt. They've been quick to turn away what I commanded them and made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They bowed down to it and sacrificed to it and have said, these are your gods, Israel, who you brought up out of Egypt. God was there. God can be at two places at once. He could talk to Moses and be down on the field. I've seen these people, the Lord said to Moses, and they are a stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone, so that my anger may burn against them, that I may destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation. Think about that. Moses, Wouldn't that be awesome? There would be no whining people. There would be no problems. They would all go away in a puff of smoke. And he would have his family. It would take a few more hundred years to develop into a nation, but that would be okay. They wouldn't be saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? None of that would happen. Moses, this is a good deal. Let God smoke these people, and then he will make you into a great nation. So everyone will go, our father Moses, not our father Abraham. It'll be our father Moses. Wow. Come on, Moses, step up. But Moses sought the favor of the Lord, his God. Lord, he said, why should your anger burn against your people? He reminds him that they are also his, that you brought out of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand. At this time, I would usually say, these are not my people. Supposedly, they're your people. I was perfectly happy being a shepherd. I liked being a shepherd. That darn burning bush, if I had not turned there, everything would be fine, right? I would not have to put up with all this stuff. But guess what? Moses takes responsibility. These are now my people. And I will pray for them. I will intercede for them. I will stick up for them. I will run for them. I will do anything for them. I will say no to my greatness for my people. Boom! That is leadership. Wow. I will sacrifice a great gift that I could have in order for my people. How passionate Moses is about these people who'd given up on him. Remember, they called him that fellow. Oh, gosh. And yet he sticks up for them. If you haven't fallen in love with Moses yet, I hope you do here. Can I just say, one of the greatest things that we can do as leaders is intercede to God again and again for our family. That extended family that's so messed up, that you've given up on. Can go back to God? How many times? I don't know. Just go back again. Just go back again. Interceding is a huge and powerful thing. It's a responsibility that sits on our shoulders. I'm always amazed in the New Testament. There was a situation that came up. People were hungry and they needed food. And the widows from a Greek background were not getting the right amount of food, and they're getting cheated. It was starting to become a corrupt system. How did that ever happen in the early church? I don't know. Maybe there were people there. Anyway, so everybody came to leadership. Do something about this. And you'd think the apostles would go down and make sure that they actually served these widows, because that's a gracious and kind thing to do. But no, what they did, they got Greek-speaking people to go, we're going to delegate that to you to do, because they will do that justly for those people. And this is what they said in Acts chapter 6, verse 4. But we will give our attention to prayer and the ministry of the word. When I remember seeing that first, I go, well, that's easy. Like, oh, you get to read the Bible and pray. Until you've wrestled in prayer for someone. You have taken on responsibility for somebody, I don't know, your child, your husband, your extended family, your ministry, your camp, your cabin. I'm going to take responsibility for this. And I'm going to wrestle this in prayer. I'm going to intercede for them again and again until God does a miracle. And then if you do that, you'll notice prayer sometimes is just hard work. Because Moses did this, the Bible says that God changed his mind, and that changed history. Exodus 32:14, then the Lord relented. It did not bring on his people the disaster he'd threatened. Some people think, well, God really wouldn't have done that. Says he would have. Some people say, well, God was kidding. I don't know. I believe he would have. I believe through Moses' intercession. The interesting thing is, I believe God invited him to pray, though. This little phrase that he used, leave me alone so I can go and do this thing. What was God saying? If you don't leave me alone, maybe I'll give second thought to this. See, the thing is, God never changes. You know what never changes about God? His character. He will always be just. He will always be love. He will always be goodness. His character never changes. And there's a part of his will that's his sovereign will. His sovereign will, he's going to do what he's going to do. We can't change his mind on those things. But also there's this other thing called his permissive will. And there's some things that we get to participate in. And he will say, what do you want me to do? And I will actually listen to your intercession. So I believe God never changes his character, but I believe history can be changed. And he allows the borders of that. But this is why at Church in the Rock we do praise and prayer nights. This is why we do a Friday prayer thing. Every Friday, just a small group of us from 7:30 till about 8:30 gather at the building. And we pray hard, don't we? We just pray hard for you. We pray hard for individuals. We pray that God would use us greatly. And as I see our church moving forward and our church is doing awesome things, I think that little group of people interceding for all of us, I think that's just so key. It's the lifeblood of our church. So, Moses comes down. Let's see how Moses handles the whole situation. I just put this, Moses takes responsibility and leads. He's carrying 2 tablets written on the front and the back. Something else I didn't know. It was interesting. I saw the movie. It was only on the front, all right? It's on the back too. Wow. So front and back. And written by the hand of God, and legitimate prayer, anger, and betrayal from God. He goes and takes these tablets in front of everybody and everybody goes, uh-oh, Dad's home. Or, a mom just came in the front door, right? You can just see all the kids stop, frozen, right? Busted. Moses goes, no! And he throws these things down the mountain. And they bust into little pieces. And then, I'm not sure, as he comes down, he just storms down, and Joshua's with him. Joshua was halfway up. And I'm thinking, he's thinking about the useless gods that he grew up with in Pharaoh's courts, giving gifts to frogs and bulls and statues of Isis. Moses grew up in this, and he saw the plagues of God just cream off these things. And there's that stupid calf. He takes the thing. He says he burns it. He gets the Levites around him. He burns the thing, all right? So it must have been huge fire, threw the thing in, melted the thing down in the ashes. Then he ground it up. He had all the Levites just ground it up into a powder. He threw it on a bunch of water, and he says, drink it. And he made the Israelites drink it. Okay. A little ticked. This is what it says in Exodus. Then Moses approached the camp and saw the calf and dancing, and his anger burned. He threw the tablets out of his hand, breaking them into pieces at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf, and the people made, and he burned it in the fire. He ground it to powder, scattered on the water, made the Israelites drink it. Okay, a different way of handling the problem than Aaron. Then he turns to his older brother, and this is so key. This is what it says here. He says to Aaron, what did these people do to you? That you, here we go, led them into such great sin. And I'm sure Aaron going, I didn't lead them anywhere. They wanted it. They asked me. They begged me. They twisted my arm. Moses, I didn't really lead them. I was just doing what they said. Isn't that what real leadership is? Just listening to what everybody says and doing what they say. And this is what Aaron said in Exodus 32, 22 to 24. Do not be angry, my Lord. Aaron said, you know how prone these people to evil. It's my big brother's fault, his fault. They said to me, make us gods who will go before us. And for this fellow, he used this fellow, he's telling on them. You know what he said? They said about you, Moses? They just called you this fellow who brought us up out of Egypt. We don't know what happened to him. So I told them, whoever has any gold jewelry, take it off. When they gave it to me, gave me the gold, I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. It was like, it might have been a spiritual thing. Maybe God was in it. I don't know how it happened. It just kind of happened. It's so stupid. You're going, hello? Are we adults here? It's awesome. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to. I don't know how that happened, Dave. I still remember this one. Okay, yeah, I'm pregnant, but I have no idea how that happened. Well, you haven't had your talk with your mom yet, have you? This is abdication of leadership. If you abdicate leadership, guess what? According to the Bible, you're still leading. If you do nothing, that's called leadership. You are still leading them nowhere, which is leadership. Moses gets the ringleaders. They're killed by the Levites. Then a plague happens. Wonder why a plague happened. Guess what God did with Egypt and the other gods? Took them on with a plague. Guess what? God says, you want those gods? Do you want the consequences of a life following that? Welcome to it. You knew what was coming. And then Exodus 32, verses 30 to 33. Next day, Moses said to his people, you committed a great sin, but now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin. So Moses went back to the Lord and said, oh, what a great sin these people have committed. They've made themselves gods of gold. But now, please, if you don't love Moses now, I don't think you'll ever will. Please forgive their sin. But if not, then blot me out of your book you've written. I'm willing to be away from you for eternity, but don't hurt your people. Please forgive their sins. Moms, dads, have you ever prayed that? Oh God, my kid, they're just going down the wrong road. Do whatever you have to me. I don't mind. Just do whatever you have to me. But save them. Come and chase them down again. God, bring them back to you. That is intercession. That is real leadership. That's on your knees, being real with God, saying, God, it's not about me. It's about these people I serve. And I will do whatever it takes. And I'm loving Moses at this point. I said, Moses, you're the real deal. Like you laid it out to the people, but before God, you begged for their mercy. The Lord did not take him up on his offer. The Lord replied to Moses, whoever sinned against me, I will blot them out of my book. There will be eternal consequences. But I can't say enough about what real leadership is. Moses was willing to suffer eternity without God for the sake of his people. My question is, what have you given up lately for the people that you have been called to serve, huh? I'm not asking you to give up eternity. It's a steep price. God's called us to serve somebody, hasn't he? Can you list some things that you've got? If you have, God bless you. Can I just say, again, the beauty of the Bible, how it flows back and forth. Jesus will come to God the Father again, and he will say, I will lay down my life for the people of the world. And God takes him up on that. So anyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Isn't that awesome? That's why the book of Hebrews calls Jesus is the better Moses. Why? Because God took him up on it, and he carried it through. So what can we take home, Church on the Rock? Can we all lead well? To take responsibility. Can I admit, nobody wants responsibility. I don't know very many people say, Dave, I want to be responsible for more things. Like we all long to be children again, where the worst thing that's happened in their life, the head of the Barbie came off. Oh man, if we could go back to those days, huh? But we're all responsible for someone, even if our own lives. And someday, there are moments of leadership that just come up. You'll recognize it. Wow, somebody's got to say something. Maybe I should. Parents, can you risk your child's disapproval for the sake of their well-being? This is hard as a parent, isn't it? We have so many young parents here at Church on the Rock. And if you're watching this online, because I know a lot of young parents are not here, and if you're watching this online, you got to get this, parents. There's some times where where you're going to need to discipline your child. And it's going to hurt the heck out of you, and you don't want it. Everything screams, I don't want to do this. I remember my daughter, who is nigh unto perfect. When she was quite young, she sort of looked at me, and I said, come here, we got to get going. And just looked at that sort of defiant look, like, I'm going to figure out whether I really want to obey you or not. No, honey, we really need to go. And she said, no. I knew at that moment, that was a leadership moment. I could cajole her, okay. It wasn't just about the leaving, it was about the defiance, right? And I just didn't want her to grow up to be a defiant young woman. I said, honey, this is going to hurt you pretty soon. Just think about this. I have to admit, I know that different people think different things, but yeah, I did spank her twice. That was the first time I remember. And she had a shock on her face. I'm weeping. And all of a sudden, the next time I say, honey, we need to get going, she looked at me, said, you know what's going to happen? I give you 1, 2, and then the memory all flooded back. She came running. Anyway, someday you're going to have to decide, will I lead my family? Even if it hurts you. Marriages. My marriage is a mess. Not mine, but we have our bombs. Will you decide to lead your marriage? Will you decide, I am going to go and work on this, turn my heart back to him, turn my heart back to her? Are there places at your place of work where you see something going on and everybody else is following everyone else, and all of a sudden you say, God, what do you want me to do? And you get the tap on the shoulder. This is your time to lead. You can actually say something about this. You can say it in love. You can. But you can say something. Can I say, churches left to themselves go south. They really do. We always follow the path of least resistance. Churches do just about anything. Can I tell you, I know you've heard this before, but I believe God's primary passion is reaching lost people. That's in his Great Commission. Make more disciples. It's in Luke 15. Searching for the one lost sheep, sweeping the place for the one lost coin. I believe that is his passion. Can I say, I think we will be busy in a million other things as a church, and that's good. But I'm going to lead. And I'm going to say we can't forget bringing people to Jesus Christ. We can't forget there are hundreds of thousands of people in Hamilton who are dying to a Christless eternity. And folks, I'm going to keep on sharing the gospel up here. And can you pray that God might just bring some folks along? If I bring my Starbucks guy along, I'll bring a Starbucks cup on stage, okay? That'll be a signal. You have to really love this guy with really long hair and a really cool beard. You know what? We will introduce as many people as possible to a vital relationship with Jesus Christ. Lead, folks. There are going to be times when God is going to ask you to lead. Lead well. The last thing I just put out there is if we intercede, it can change history. Interceding is such a not word that we use now, isn't it? I remember what we do when we intercede, we go to somebody greater to be able to ask for someone else that we care for. My daughter was in grade 3, and we moved to a whole new school. Because she was in a new school, she was made fun of a lot, and she was actually beat up. She came home and she had bruises and cuts on her, and we went and phoned the teacher and said, what was this about? And we don't know, and I guess it happened during a recess, and so is there supervision on recess? And there's things called peer counselors. The kids take care of themselves, and so I said, well, could you just watch out for our daughter? And so the next week, she got beat up again and came home with a black eye. And as a parent, I interceded on the behalf of my daughter in front of the principal. We had a wonderful talk. Actually, I believe my wife was the spearhead of that. We interceded to say, do something about this. Who can you intercede on the behalf for? Who can you say, God, do something about this? I'll ask our worship team to come on up. My Starbucks friend, he won't talk to God. It's really fun. He won't talk to God. I said, you should really tell God how angry you are with him. He said, I don't want to talk to him. Why? He says, I'm so angry at him. Well, you should talk to him. He can hear me now. So I said, hold on. Okay. So if I'm having a fight with my wife, and she's there, but I say to my daughter, your mother, you know what she did? How respectful is that of that whole situation? He said, not very. So instead of talking to me, because he can listen in, why don't you just talk to him? I don't want to. That's awesome. we had this conversation. I said, so let's go through the ABCs. Do you admit that you're a sinner? I do. I messed up my life. That's easy to admit. Do you believe that Jesus Christ died and rose again? I do. I believe that happened. I read it. I believe it. Good. Are you ready to commit your life to him as your Lord? No way. At least we know where you're stuck. Can I say I am interceding on behalf of my Starbucks friend? I'm asking God come back and get him again and get him again. I intercede on behalf of many of you. Those prayer requests, sometimes you will hear a crazy man yelling in our church forest. That might be me. I walk the prayer path and I talk out loud. I talk loudly to God when I'm on the prayer path. And sometimes I just scream out my passion to him. Sometimes if you come to the building, you'll hear a crazy man in the prayer room and you'll see me laid out on the floor just saying, God, do something in these people. God, save that one child. There is somebody hooked in drugs. Get them off. God, do something again. And I'm pouring out my heart because, golly, I get to be a pastor. And you guys have opportunities to lead. Change history. Intercede well for your people. It's awesome. It really is. Oh, gosh, I can't talk anymore now. I'm a mess. Heavenly Father, thank you for the example of Moses. I want to lead like that guy. I want to come on like hot sauce there, God. I want to take responsibility for the people that you have given me. God, I pray that we will be interceders, that we